So welcome to our 33rd webinar. I believe it's the 33rd one. Today we have Kezia from KDI, which is Kounkuey Design Initiative. They're a new network within our network here with NATURA. And they'll be presenting, and then we have a little bit of time at the end of Kezia's presentation for Q&A, and then we also have some time for whoever is on to advertise any network opportunities going on within their networks that they'd like to share. So Kezia, you can take it away.
Thank you, Tessa. I'm glad to come and represent KDI in this presentation. I'll present my screen. Just let me know once you can see. The screen, Introducing myself. My name is Kezia Elizabeth Ojal. I work with KDI, or Kounkuey Design Initiative. My professional background is social work and community development, and at KDI support with community engagement in various projects in Kenya. It's an honor for KDI to join the NATURA network, and I'm glad to present to you all who KDI is and what we do. KDI is a non-profit design and community development organization. We partner with under-resourced communities to advance equity and activate their unrealized potential in neighborhoods and cities. We majorly work in informal settlements. And KDI is an international, we have international offices. We have an office in Nairobi, we have an office in Stockholm, we have an office in Coachella, and we've done some work in Ghana, Haiti, and Argentina. I'm based in the Nairobi office. So today I will focus more on the work KDI has done in Kenya. KDI has majorly worked in informal settlements in Kenya. And an example of where we've been working since 2006 is Kibera, where KDI has worked with communities, especially community groups. Kibera is an informal settlement located in Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya in East Africa. It is one of the largest slums in Africa and estimates a population of about 1 million. With people from rural areas migrating to Nairobi in search for better economic opportunities, Kibera is densely populated with limited access to basic services such as clean water, sanitation, healthcare, education, and settlement lacks basic infrastructure such as proper drainage and sewer systems. Despite its challenges, Kibera is also a very vibrant community with a strong sense of identity and culture. Many residents are involved in small-scale businesses and informal economy activities, such as street vending. The settlement also has a rich history of grassroots activism and community organizing. To advance our mission, KDI partners with communities in informal settlements to implement projects through 4 service areas, as is showing on our screen. And the first one is to research and test. This one we do through research projects and partnership with academic and research institutions, for example, the UCL. We also, the second service area is design and build, and this one we do participatory design and construction processes, whereby we've engaged communities in participatory design and construction of projects. I'll talk a bit on one or two of our projects and explain how we do the design and build. Also, we do plan and program through some of our programming projects that focus more on creating awareness. Another service area is educate and build. And through this service area, we build capacity and we also disseminate learning to our community partners as well as other professional partners that we interact with in our field of work. About the KDI team is multidisciplinary. We recognize that successful community development requires a diverse range of expertise and skills. The team is inclusive of engineers, urban planners, urban and regional planners, urban designers, architects, landscape architects, and construction professionals. Also, we have human rights and gender-based experts, chartered accountants, and communication expertise. This is quite key for us to ensure that our work meets the needs of different community members. On the screen, just a few of the projects that are ongoing within the KDI team. And within the scope of our service areas, we've actually implemented numerous projects, not just in Nairobi, but also in other informal settlements, including a refugee settlement in northern Kenya. On the screen, for example, we have the Kibera Public Space project that is ongoing. I'll talk a bit more about it. And then we have the Urban Fabric Initiative, is also an ongoing project that focuses on public space. And then also we have the Realizing Urban Nature-Based Solutions, which is also ongoing and focuses on NBS concepts. We also have the 3EP, emphasizing ecosystem and elevating people, and Mukuru Riverfront Public Space Project. You realize that most of them are in line with the public space concept, but also in implementing all these projects, we realize that it's quite necessary to incorporate NBS approaches, because most of our projects are close to the river, are next to the river, and we realize communities in those areas experience a lot of issues. For example, flooding, they experience poor drainage services and very poor sewer services. So we also have to incorporate NBS in the process. I'll talk a bit more on Kibera Public Space Project. These are KDI's flagship project. It started in 2006 and it's ongoing. There's a network of 11 public spaces, as is showing on the screen, and infrastructure that are collaboratively developed. These public spaces are community initiated, designed and constructed, and managed by the communities. KDI only supports them to come together with the ideas and put it together into a plan that can be physically implemented. The Kibera Public Space is an approach to slum upgrading and improving neighborhoods based on both social and environmental needs and priorities. Most often, the neglected spaces in informal settlements in Nairobi, as you can see, are along the river, where they are characterized with poor sewage and drainage and are also prone to flooding. And this calls for integration of concept of NBS, especially in solving water management issues in the informal settlements. On the screen is an example of the first site that KDI transformed. This is how it looked before KDI started working with residents in Kibera to improve it. The second image is how it was developed and how it looks. Actually, at the moment, it looks even better than this, but it has been transformed from a dump site, and now it's a public space that serves the community, serves their social, economic, and environmental needs. The public spaces have quite a lot with regards to physical infrastructure, social amenities, and economic opportunities. It brings together various people from the community to come together and have access to our public space. They can come together. This is because the informal settlements, especially in Kibera, there's no much public space where children can play or people can interact, because it's so congested with a lot of building and a lot of infrastructure that people have built. I'll talk a bit now about the Realizing Urban Nature-Based solution. This is one of our projects that started in 2019. It's currently running to up to 2024. This is where we've incorporated a lot of NBS concepts. It's a pilot project. It's a pilot project that aims to build evidence and disseminate findings on how NBS can be integrated in informal settlement upgrading approaches. And some of the fundamentals of the project include to build knowledge around NBS as a part of slum upgrading. And this one we do through co-design and building of concrete solutions. Another one is to exchange NBS learning and knowledge within East Africa region through regional community of practice. KDI has started a process of developing or working together with like-minded organizations and individuals to build a community of practice so that we're able to share learning, but also come together with ideas to help build the work that you're already doing and develop communities. The third one is to build, as a means of learning, a robust mail framework. And this one KDA has been doing to ensure we are able to monitor and evaluate the NBS interventions that we're implementing in community. Another is to bring impact and change in settlements and communities in which KDA has been working. And as I've shown in the previous slide, the conditions of areas where the people live in informal settlements. As we work together with them, we try to improve the environmental conditions of those places. Also, the scope of the NBS project, the first is for design and build NBS, and this is where we build physical intervention. I'll be able to show towards the end a slide where we have images of the physical interventions we've implemented, and then also to evaluate NBS through a robust M&E framework, as I've said. The third is to build spatial scale through a rivers and people's plan. We realize that NBS, a lot of community members do NBS, they just don't call it NBS, but local communities do NBS interventions to try and solve the water management challenges they are facing, but they don't know about it. So we are trying to advocate for that through the rivers and people's plan, but also try to bring on board government stakeholders and other city stakeholders to notice that NBS is quite key in slum upgrading. And to build collaboration scale through the regional community of practice, we realize it's not easy to bring change, especially in informal settlement as an organization alone. So you have to work with other partners to avoid duplication of work or doing other interventions that may interfere with the operations of one. So when you work collaboratively with other agencies, local governments, and other organizations, you're able to collaboratively develop interventions that are able to work. I'll talk a bit, because of my background in community development, I'll talk a bit about community engagement and how we engage communities in implementing NBS process. In the process of implementing NBS, KDA engages community through co-design. Co-design is a process from identifying challenges, capacity building on nature-based solutions concept, construction of NBS solutions, and management of NBSs. Overall, KDA's co-design process prioritizes community engagement, empowerment, and collaboration, with the goal of creating projects that are sustainable, effective, and responsive to the needs and aspirations of the community. This is quite key for us, especially to ensure we're able to advocate for uptake of NBS concept by grassroots initiatives, as well as local leaders in solving the challenges. The image here just shows an example, an image of how the construction process for NBS happens. So once you've engaged community through the process from needs, identifying their challenges and developing solutions, we come together again with them and we engage them in the construction of the NBS intervention. And this is quite necessary because at the end of the project, we expect that the community are able to own and they're able to manage. Also, they should be able to maintain. In the process of construction, we build their capacity and they learn exactly what are the materials that are used in the construction process and how do they repair them, how can they maintain them, how can they manage them to ensure the intervention are able to work as planned. I'll talk a bit about one of the challenges faced with NBS when we first started and was explaining NBS to the community. It was a bit difficult. Community could not understand NBS, but also we realized there's quite a lot they were already doing, especially along the river and managing drainage issues in their neighborhoods. There's a lot they were already doing, but they didn't know how to call it NBS. So when we came and introduced the project NBS, they couldn't really connect what NBS is. But when we realized we could develop a narrative around NBS, we agreed to develop something that is quite familiar to them. And we tried to relate their environment in rural Kenya and the environment in the city in comparison, how the landscape in rural Kenya is and how the landscape in Nairobi is. And we try to compare how does nature manage the challenges they are facing, for example, with issues of flooding in the city in comparison to rural Kenya. Because, for example, most people who come from rural Kenya, they say there is rarely flooding in rural parts of the country because that's how nature works in the rural parts. But again, in the city, there is quite a lot of flooding. So together with the community, we discussed what exactly is different. That is, what exactly is happening in the city that is not happening in the rural parts of Kenya. And we realized it's about the urbanization, industrialization, is also about the population and how other interventions have been done in the city. And an example that communities have always referred to, for example, is waste management, because we realize the environment, especially in formal settlements, is so much polluted with plastic waste, unlike in rural parts of the country, so much polluted that even water is not able to infiltrate. So in developing nature-based solutions, we encourage them that it's key to develop solutions that allow water to infiltrate, especially in the city. The screen is showing images of some of the NBS interventions we implemented in formal settlement. The first one is filter drain, and we engage communities in designing the solutions and also implementing them, that they know the exact materials that have been used, so that whenever it is damaged or there's a problem with its operation, they're able to sort it. They are able to sort it by themselves. KDI, once the project ends, is only responsible for providing technical expertise or technical advice. So we've done filter drains, we've done infiltration sockways and bioretention systems, we've done permeable paving, we've done planter beds, rainwater harvesting, also we've done permeable paving, also we've done adaptable rainwater harvesting and under plaza stormwater detention. When you visit the public spaces that I mentioned when I was beginning this presentation, we realized these are all over, the interventions are all over the public spaces, because the public spaces, nearly all of them are along the river and are prone to flooding challenges and wastewater management challenges. The NBS project has been implemented in partnership with CCI, Center for Community Initiative. This is an organization in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam. So you are able together with them to implement NBS intervention in an informal settlement in Dar es Salaam that is called Kounkuey. And in Kenya, in Nairobi, we've been able to implement NBS interventions in formal settlements of Kibera and another one called Mukuru that is currently ongoing. Thank you for your time. I welcome questions, and I'm hoping my colleagues have already joined and they could also support and could input into the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kezia. We have now entered into the question and answer time of this webinar. So please speak up or raise your hand if you have a question for Kezia.
Well, I would just say, I really appreciate the, sounds like fantastic work that you're doing, and really interested in the river work? So what kinds of things? The cleanup was really amazing. I don't know if that was on the river or that was, you said it was a dam. I guess I didn't quite understand that. Could you go back over that part a little bit?
Let me see.
Like,
if I
how
can
did you
get-
actually get that accomplished, that project accomplished? Did you have community members working with you? Did you have to initiate a cleanup through the city government? How did it work?
Thank you for that question. So as you see, actually this is the first public space that KJ worked on, and at the moment we have 11. Actually, most of them before we start the work are in a similar condition. And what we do to ensure this is a success is to bring on board the various stakeholders who are supposed to bring the change that is required. And this includes the local government. It also includes the residents. It also includes other organizations, other CBOs that are around that area. So the first step is to help the community to see the need to change this. So we partner with organized or registered community groups who are able to advocate for this event through their local leadership. And together we engage from the first step is to identify the challenge, which is quite evident in this photo. And then together with them, we co-design solutions. What exactly can be done to improve this space? And then once we've come with the solutions, we prioritize what is really relevant that could bring the change. And then we implement together with them through a construction process that brings us to this space, or to this the bit I'm presenting now. And as we do that with them, we also realize that they need to not just get it back to the first situation it was, but to manage and to maintain it. So we develop with them a structure or a program that they're able to continually work on it and make sure it remains the same. So this is the fact that was designed in 2006, and at the moment, it has really improved. It's one of the most operational public spaces in Kibera.
Nice. I mean, it's wonderful. It's a great story. I just, I was really interested in the implementation phase. I understand all the bringing people together and making it important, but then how do you actually, what is the actual, who is involved? And I mean, you probably contracted out to some construction company to remove a lot of the, move around the soil and so forth, right? But yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Maybe I can add a bit, but basically it's just the local community who are involved in the construction. We don't contract, because also in our team we have construction professionals who their job is to supervise. Their job is just to supervise, but we hire from the local community. We hire masons, we hire people with skills, but also we hire unskilled labor. So we give opportunity to every person who lives in that area to be able to build that public space.
That's fantastic. That's really great. Yeah, thank you. That's really great.
And it looks like we also have a question from Elizabeth in the chat.
Kezia, thank you for a great presentation. This is really cool, and I'm excited to hear about all these things you're working on. I was just wondering, maybe kind of building a little bit on Nancy's question, if you could talk some more about how, I think you mentioned a little later in the presentation that some of the community members, while they were already implementing NBS type projects in their communities, they didn't really immediately grasp on the concept of NBS. And I'm just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how how you kind of worked around that and engaged the community in those conversations.
Thank you, Elizabeth. So how we engage community to be able to easily understand NBS is, the first step was for our team internally to be able to understand the concept of NBS. because we have a group of community development practitioners. I'm one of. Once we've understood this, we share it with the communities. And how we did is developing posters, and some of these posters were with images of NBS, images showing NBS concept. And an example that we used, for example, is an image of a clean river, and another one was an image of very dirty river. In Nairobi, the river, especially Nairobi River, the river is black. But when you go to rural parts of Kenya, for example, the water is clear. So we could showcase that to them and tell them the way it is in rural Kenya, the water is clear. That's exactly how nature is. And we were able to brainstorm with them what exactly would make it that clean, that is not doing the same in the city. And an example is for example, in rural parts of Kenya, there are rocks along the rivers, and there are trees along the rivers that clean that water and purify that water as it flows. And that is not what we have in the city. Along the river in the city, and even in the river now, we have a lot of solid waste, plastic waste. People are throwing waste into the river. So through that, they're able to see the difference, and it helps them to understand how nature works. So bringing on board the concept of NBS, we explain to them, we are going to try to copy from how nature works, and some of the interventions you are going to use will copy exactly from how nature works. And I'll use example of the rainwater harvesting system and how it was used. So the rainwater harvesting system, one of the schools implemented NBS, they realized they were experiencing a lot of soil erosion. So we said, what is it that would control soil erosion? And they said, for example, the nature gives us trees, that when it rains, the leaves stop the water from falling so fast into the ground and causing the soil erosion. They reduce the pressure. And now a concept that is similar, that is nature-based, is now the use of rainwater harvesting system, the water gutters. If you introduce gutters into our roofs and we connect them to taps, the water will not go into their ground and cause the soil erosion, because it slows down and it's directed into a chamber that is at least able to store it. And another one is, for example, they complain that they say that in rural parts of Kenya, there is no flooding because water drains easily into the lakes and into the river, because there is no solid waste. So even as we've been designing NBS interventions, an example is the filter drain. We told them, because sometimes communities would say, give us pavement so that we have proper access for our children. But we told them there are some kinds of pavement, if you put it in your space, then they will reduce the ability of water to infiltrate. So we said, okay, why don't we use filter drains that still improve the access, but also will allow the water, when it rains, allows water to infiltrate slowly into the ground, so that place is not flooded. I hope I was able to answer you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I appreciate those examples.
Can I ask another question? I think in my experience, which is not very deep, but I would say what I often find with communities is that the nature-based solutions are, I mean, I think that they're necessary in these, particularly in these kinds of environments where you don't have a lot of resources for, big infrastructure and so forth. And yet it seems like the concerns of the community so often, I guess this is just continuing the conversation because, Elizabeth sort of asked this question as well, but it seems like the concerns of the communities are so often about things that are just so much more fundamental to, like space to move around or ways to get around or, roof over my head or something like that, that it's hard to convey the urgency of, an efficacy of nature-based solutions, particularly since they often require space, right? That might be used for something else. So I don't know if you want to respond to that or just leave it,
Yes,
which is fine as well.
I can say a bit on that because we've also experienced this, but also from our experience and implementing NBS, we realize that yes, NBS requires space, but still, depending on the space you have, you are able to develop a solution that could work. And again, as communities, most of the time, as we say, they need space to move around, they need space to do their activities. What we do in developing the public spaces, we discuss together with them that yes, we develop a public space, but still we realize most of the public spaces are along the river. So they'll experience issues with flooding, they'll experience issues with poor drainage and waste and water management system. So even as we incorporate the public space, we also incorporate NBS concepts in trying to manage the water management challenges. So it's basically an integrated approach of slum upgrading. So with that, they're able to appreciate NBS.
Great, thank you. Really great stuff. I think there's a comment or question from Sabrina.
Yeah, I'm seeing a question from Sabrina.
Hi.
What is a sunrise kiosk?
Yeah.
Yes, Kezia. Actually, this is Frank and Sabrina. That was really good presentation. Just wanted to add to your comment, the space issue, and acknowledge actually that that's one of the challenges we face in implementing. And nevertheless, we've been able to also work with communities to implement sort of NBSs that are fit for small spaces. When we've done the short listing with the community, with the residents, I think one of the things we've seen is also they acknowledge the issue of space, and that helps even when we are prioritizing types of NBSs for the spaces available. That's one of the things we see coming up in those workshops. There's another model that we've been working around as grander sort of master plan scale level and incorporating interventions in the small spaces, but encouraging or working around a model where you can have small spaces in a settlement and connecting those in a sense that you have sort of like progressive transformation of small spaces that have been perceived at a greater scale, which is, I think, what Kezia mentioned as the rivers and people's plan. That you can have a plan of how the interventions can all work together at a bigger scale, and then start working on those at the small available spaces. Thanks, Kezia. Back to you.
Thank you, Frank. Let me respond to one question from Sally West from Sabrina Drill on sunrise kiosks. These are basically shops within the public spaces, because as we engage with communities within those very small spaces, they realize that they need something to bring them. And yet having these activities, economic activities in the public space, brings people into the public space more frequently. Thank you.
More questions, discussion? Another person.
Alrighty, well, if no one else has questions, we can move on to the portion where we talk about any opportunities being advertised in the NATURA Partner Network. I see we have one actually in the chat already from Jorge about sessions of a course on nature-based solutions for climate adaptation in cities. Jorge, did you want to talk a little bit more about that? Well,
I don't actually see Jorge. You might have posted that and left. I don't actually see him on the list here.
I still see him, but
So-
maybe, I mean,
Oh,
it was pretty
okay.
detailed. It was a pretty detailed message, so with included with links.
Do you want to read it? We can read it.
Yeah. It says, thanks Tessa and all
Yes.
the organizers. Sorry, do you want me to or you, Nancy?
Nice. Go ahead. Go ahead,
Okay.
Tessa.
Thanks, Tess, and all the organizers for this interesting webinar. Greetings from Medellin, Colombia. We invite you to watch in Spanish the sessions of the course Nature-Based Solutions for Climate Adaptation in Cities, which HTM Group Foundation designed and delivered in 2022 with the financial support of IKI, International Climate Initiative of the German government. And there's a YouTube link. We are also building 2 nature-based solutions in 2 cities, La Ceja and Soacha. I hope I said that right. And the desire to continue working on this transcendental issue for our cities and rural territories. Other activities of the HTM Group Foundation can be seen here, linked below.
That's great.
Oh,
Terrific.
no worries, Jorge. Anyone else? Anything else going on in our partner networks that you want to talk about?
Well, Elizabeth, maybe we should give a little update on the Rula Iris. Do you want to do that, or do you want me to? I've been talking a lot. Elizabeth Cook. Okay, I will do it. So what we have a project that is coordinated by Elizabeth Cook, also Marta Bebes and Matt Fagan at the University of Waterloo, and myself. And we have the purpose is to give students a team science experience, graduate students working in a Latin American city, working with communities on nature-based solutions. And so we have a team of 6 students this year. They're going to Bogota, and they're going to be interfacing very closely with the NATURA's working group on informality, which is actually something, Kezia, that I think you'd be interested in, and they probably would welcome your perspective and knowledge in that working group. They're going to be working with that working group and some NATURA partners that are in at the University of La Salle, and also RecNet, which is a Latin American organization for urban informality in South America. And I don't know, anything else, Elizabeth, that you think we should say about that?
No, I think that's great. And apologies, I just stepped away for a second when you were asking if I would help. So,
That's
but I think
okay.
that's a good overview.
Yeah, just bringing people up to speed on the NATURA, the Rula Iris project. And after this year, when we'll be in Bogota, we have one more year of funding for another cohort of students, and we'll start advertising that in the fall. And have a webinar on that. Whatever city we're going to actually work on. I don't think we've made our final decision yet on what city that's going to be. So.
And Sabrina has a question. Are there any updates on the all hands meeting?
Tessa, you would know that.
Yeah, so we decided to postpone the virtual all hands meeting, and now we are just trying to strategize with timing of it all. Maybe doing some shifts, everything like that, but we will be notifying everyone through newsletter or just general email announcement as soon as we come to
I think
questions.
I think we've sort of, I don't want to misspeak. So I at least have Elizabeth and Tessa here to correct me if I say the wrong thing, but I think that we had talked about and pretty much decided it was a good idea to have our final all hands meeting be the in-person meeting. So that would be in 2024 rather than 2023. And that we will have a virtual meeting that will be held in the fall this year.
Yeah, I think it was still in discussion. I'm not quite sure if there are any firm things decided, because there are a lot of things to weigh out here, like, you know, if we were to have if we were to switch the in-person meeting with the virtual all hands meeting, you know, would the locations we have in mind be suitable in that time of year, and just things like that. So I think we'll probably have a firm decision made at our next executive team meeting, which is next Monday. But Nancy's on the right track with, that's kind of where our head is at. We're weighing all options here.
Has someone, Kezia, has someone from your group joined the call? Or am I just, there's so many names I don't recognize here, and a lot of them are note takers.
Yes, Sabrina and Frank had joined. Maybe they can introduce themselves.
Yes, please. Maybe they disappeared.
I think they've dropped. They were still in the field and with very limited internet
okay.
connection.
Okay, thank you. What else is happening in NATURA that anybody wants to bring up? Alana, you have anything you want to bring up? Alana, introduce yourself anyway.
Hello, everyone. Not prepared for that. Thanks, Nancy.
Oh, I know, but I'm not prepared either, so
No worries.
okay. We'll be casual conversation.
Yeah, hello, everyone. Yeah, so my name is Alana. I work for Planet Debt, a network-based organization. I'm actually based in Berlin, but we're conducting a lot of work. So we're a broad network of experts. So also as KDI, looking a little bit more from the practitioner side in this network. And yeah, we are focusing on climate change adaptation and climate risk management, particularly in the Global South. And what might be maybe especially interesting for you is that I'm very lucky that I will be conducting an early career fellowship under NATURA now starting in July. And then for 15 weeks, I will be hosted by Barnard College and the New School. So super excited for this opportunity. And I will be looking into different methodologies for planning nature-based solutions in cities and informal settlements. And I will be also including some lessons learned from people who have been implementing these methodologies, especially scenario building and planning by doing. And there I also wanted to reach out to KDI. So I was just about to put another question in the chat when Tessa already moved on, because I wanted to know a little bit more about the tactical urbanism part and how they have included that in their projects. Yeah, but yeah,
We have
looking
time for
forward.
that.
Yeah, looking forward
let me
to
just say
engaging
that
more
the
in
reason
that.
I called on you, Alana, was not to put you on the spot about Planet App, but because you are, and you've been so involved already. For example, in the Rula Aires planning and everything, that I had assumed you already started your fellowship. I didn't realize you hadn't started yet. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, that's like the pre-planning. So yeah, I have the feeling I'm connecting several dots with my fellowship. Exactly. So I will be also hopefully learning from the students that I engaged in Bogota. So yeah, that will be also part.
Fantastic. Okay. So go ahead with your question for Kezia, because I think we have time for that.
Yeah, Kezia. So thank you so much for your presentation. Yeah, as I've said, I would be interested in hearing a little bit more, because I've seen it in one of your slides that you're also engaged in tactical urbanism and how you approach that in your projects.
Thank you. Frank is not on call. I know you'd be best placed to explain that in detail, but I'll share that to him as well, and then he can we can share more on it.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you.
And I guess maybe this would be a nice time to mention that as I'm writing out a response to David, this summer, we are going to be taking a webinar break from June to August. So we'll be picking back up with our webinars in September. And I believe we also have a new network introduction lined up for at that point as well for our September webinar. But I just wanted to formally say it here so that you don't try joining in the coming months.
Yeah,
Oh, and
that's great.
also,
And
oh, sorry, you can go on, Nancy.
no, I was just going to say, David, we can take up your question at the executive committee team and see if people have. I mean, getting up at 6:30 to be on a 7 o'clock webinar is fine for me any day of the week, really. So we could talk about that.
Yes, absolutely. I think we have mentioned it a couple of times and it just hasn't happened because I think things have gotten busier, but this does seem like it would be something that would be valued by the network. My other point that I was going to say is that we were going to have a presenter, Rembrandt, talking about rewilding the sea. So if you saw that on our agenda this week for this webinar, and now it's not on the agenda, you're not going crazy. It was there, but there was just a time mix up. So Rembrandt will be presenting at another webinar. Alrighty, so unless anybody else has questions or things of interest, please speak up in the next 15 seconds. If not, we'll be ending the webinar.
Wow, look at this otter thing. This is amazing.
I don't know. Alrighty. Well, thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you back in
Thank you
September.
so much. This was really great.
Yes,
Thanks a lot.
thank you, Kezia.